Hello, everyone. We're going to be starting in just a couple of minutes. Thank you so much. Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us today for our webinar. I'm very excited to have you all here today. My name is Paul Kahn. I'm the SVP of Sales here at Upfluence, and I want to welcome you all to today's webinar on social commerce. I also want to invite everyone in the chat to share where they are joining us from and tell us a little bit about themselves. We have some of our colleagues there that are doing it. And we'll be answering some of their questions. I'm thrilled to be joined today by Lauren Talby from Amaretti. Lauren, could you introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Lauren. I'm the social media marketing director here at Amaretti. I manage a lot of our influencer marketing, our content creation and planning. I wear a lot of hats here at Amaretti, actually. So aside from that, I do a lot of like our online customer service. If you're on our website chatting with us, I'm one of the people you're talking to. So yeah, I mean, that's what I do here. It's a lot of fun, a great place to get creative.
All right, yeah, and not only that, if you want to have we may talk about this later, but an amazing holiday mule recipe, you should check out Amaretti's Instagram account right now, where Lauren shows you how to make that using some of their syrups and all the fresh ingredients, and it looks absolutely delicious. And if it wasn't 10 a.m. here in New York, I would be drinking one right now.
Yeah,
so
2 hours, maybe it'll be okay.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so what we're going to talk about today is social commerce. And we are going to spend some time on is what is social commerce? How have the rules changed? And why is social commerce so important for all of the brands that we know and we work with and that we talk to? We also want to talk about understanding the social pathway. How is that different from other versions of how people want to think and talk and really sell their products online? We wanted to also go over with you platform options. So if you are doing social commerce, which social platforms are you going to focus on? Why? What are some of the advantages and disadvantages of the different platforms? And lastly, we always like to talk about growth drivers. So how does all of this help your company grow? And we're really excited to have Lauren with us to talk about all of that. Okay, so first things first. 2020 has been interesting, shall we say. A lot of the ways that companies have been selling have changed in 2020. We like to think that it's been more of an acceleration of a lot of different trends that we've been seeing, but there's been a big push toward more things online. There's been a big push toward e-commerce, and that's partially been driven by safety concerns, of course, during COVID. You're not having we're not going to have those images this year that we're used to of big Black Friday pushes into stores around Christmas. So we want to talk about how some of these things change what we care about in and what we need to focus on in 2020. And how are smart brands really working with this? Well, one of the big ways is social commerce, right? And Lauren, I know Amaretti's really been pushing into social a lot. You know, we mentioned already the yeah, you know, all of the live you're doing and things like that. But can you talk a little bit about how Amaretti is really thinking about that social commerce piece?
I mean, I think for us, it really helps because we aren't a name like a brand that you're going to see in the grocery store or at like your. I mean, we're in some specialty goods stores, but not many. So it really helps to just push the brand, show people what you can do with it that's different than that extract or syrup you can buy at your local grocery store or, you know, Marshall's, TJ Maxx. And I think demonstrating it ourselves and using influencers and things like that to kind of help show, you know, this is what's so great about Amaretti. This is, you know, why you should, you know, take the leap, order it online, and try it at home yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and by doing that and putting it in the place where people are already going, right? Because in 2020, 2020 is going to be a different holiday season for all of us, right? Where
Yes,
I'm looking at, you know, maybe I'm normally getting a 20-pound turkey for Thanksgiving. This year, I'm looking for a 10-pound turkey, right? It's going to be a smaller group. It's actually just going to be me and my family and my kids. And so what that means is that yearning for human connection has to go somewhere, right? So we're not going to visit our family, but we are seeing our proxy family, right, on social media and places like that. And so I think that's driving a lot of people to want to be on social. And that's why we need to make sure that we put the ability to purchase also on social and sort of the breadcrumbs toward that. So what does this all mean from the customer side? Well, a couple of things that are really interesting about it, right? It allows them to find the products they like where they already are, and look at the reviews and comments, but they get to engage with the people who represent the brand. And I think, Lauren, you know, you were talking about how you do that for Amaretti, right? You're there manning the responses and also demonstrating the product. Can you talk a little bit about, you know, how that sort of that more personal relationship is really playing itself out?
It definitely, in the past, we weren't really doing much of that other than some YouTube videos. And I really think, you know, putting a person behind the brand, showing them, you know, anybody can use this. It's easy. It's not, you know, some of our conversions are a little confusing. And just having that personality behind it, showing them, you know, it's so easy to use. It's going to take your drinks, your baked goods, things to another level. And then also having influencers to show that as well, because, you know, we're the brand, we're saying it's easy, but if you also have this person who they have no reason to be telling you this other than they do genuinely like the product and it was really easy for them to use and create a delicious dessert, cocktail, beer, whatever it be with, I think that really puts a little bit more trust into something.
Yeah, and you know, as you're talking about it, right? So one of the big challenges as we've gone to a more virtual shopping experience is that human touch. And as you're talking about it, right, that ability for someone to feel connected to the person who's showing them that, right? Like you can't just have those interactions serendipitously anymore. You need to seek them out on social media. You need to find the people and all of that. And I think that is a huge key. You know, setting up the funnels correctly and making sure that you're, you know, hitting all of the numbers is extremely important. But once you lose that human touch, you're just a monolith, right? So how can you use the people that are representing your brand and the influencers that you are speaking with to make that feel like a very human and customer focused experience is really important. The other thing that we think is really key is the platforms are making it easier to have those purchase moments, right? So instead of us saying to them, okay, here, take this, now go to my website and do this, it's all a little quicker and easier than it used to be, right? Can you talk about like
Sure.
how that's helped sort of have a better understanding of your customers' behavior?
Yeah, so I mean, with our products, we have thousands and thousands of products. It might be a little bit difficult for someone to click on the link in our bio and find it.
Hmm.
So it's definitely helped in the past for like tagging products on a post that was used in a recipe or that are pictured in the post. We see a lot of people like actually clicking on it and going to that page. Some might convert, some might come back later and purchase, but I think that's really beneficial for customers. Only downfall is a lot of our products are used for cocktails or may have like our vanilla extracts have the word bourbon in them.
Hmm.
So Facebook automatically is like, oh, that's alcohol. You
Right.
cannot tap that. So it's a little bit of workaround we're toying with right now, but it's definitely it's a huge improvement from just saying click the link in our bio and find it.
Right. Yeah.
Oh.
And I think that's really important, right? So how do you work within the algorithms and the platforms that are there? How do you know how to push for what you need? But giving that map to the customer where you're tagging the photos, and I think we have some examples of that we're going to talk about, but how you're tagging those photos so they can just go straight to it and buy the thing that they need, as opposed to sending them to your website and it's sort of like, okay, now how do I find this very specific product that I saw utilized in this very specific way? Okay, but what does this mean for the brand, right? So we started to talk about this a little bit, but fewer steps to purchase is huge. We all know this. We've all had the moment where we go on Amazon and before we're done even thinking of something, we've clicked buy now, right? And 2 days later, what's that? What's the last thing that? Yeah, I think I ended up buying a sound machine, and it just showed up 2 days later. And I was like, oh yeah, I guess I bought a sound machine. Like, what Amazon has done and what they've leveraged to become so big is they've really made the purchasing journey easy. If you're on a page and you want it, you click buy. Well, that's where the social media networks are coming, and that's really helping the conversions because, as you were saying, that map to that one syrup that you use in your pumpkin spice latte is really specific, but would be not necessarily so simple for someone to find. That making that journey a little more simple is important, and that does increase conversion rates. We know it does, right? Every step along the way that we're asking someone to remember something is a step we don't need people to be taking. So that's really important. And for I'm sure also you were mentioning that you help manage customer experience a little bit. I'm sure you had less like, how do I find this thing? And a little more like, thank you for showing this to me, that kind of stuff, right? Or is it, can you talk about like what your experience has been with the customers as you've been building this out more and more?
So a lot of our customer inquiries that come through our website, Facebook, and Instagram are, of course, either, where's this product? How can I find it? So it's easily you just send them the link, or, how to use it. And I think that's a big thing of why we really started utilizing our Instagram lives and videos like that and influencers, is to kind of help teach people and skip that step. So it's really easy for them to know how to use our products. So we get a lot of different questions coming in through our channel, so it's hard to pinpoint the most prominent.
Yeah, I mean, as anyone who's manned a social media channel knows, and I'm sure a lot of the people who are watching know this, you can get everything from really on point questions around how do I use this product? I want to buy it. Can you ship it here? To like just some more random questions that come up from time to time. And we're going to talk about the value of answering all of those questions because they help convert everybody to be customers. And so as we go through this, right, how you set this up and how you understand how social media is involved is huge. How you understand your influencers, how you understand your brand, and how you can make sure that you're really in the path to purchase. So one of the things that we think is really interesting is all of the different ways that people are using what they're seeing on social, what they're seeing created by brands, what they're seeing created by influencers to help them make those purchasing decisions. So, we have people who see ads on social. So 28% of people are moved by ads, which is great. But almost as many people are moved by recommendations and comments, either from people they know or influencers they follow. But this middle one really gets me every time. They want to find the information. They need to find the information about this thing. We were talking about a pumpkin spice latte, let's say. That's big through the end of November, but then we're getting into Christmas time. There are going to be people who are like, how do I bake this thing? How do I bake this Christmas dish? And how do I get that extra little taste that makes it feel special and makes it feel home, like home? And those are the people who are coming to your site, looking at your influencers and saying, hey, how can Amaretti help me, right? The other thing that people like to see is when a product already has a lot of likes and comments. They love that. They think that that's great. I can talk for myself. When I was, recently I was buying a new router and I wanted to find something that was good. And routers are notoriously terrible, right? But I was going on social media. I was asking all my friends. I was looking at influencers that I like who did reviews of routers and things like that. And all of that helped me drive to say, you know what, this is the right one for me. And I went off and purchased it. And then, of course, having that buy button is really important. So making the pathway as simple as possible. And that's how we can go from this idea of how you find the stuff through brand discovery, how you find the right product info, and then how you motivate people to think, yes, I want to buy this. This feels good for me, right? And one of the things that we talk about a lot is how you can make people feel good about their purchases. Everyone thinks that the idea of influencers is about exposure. And that's true. You definitely do want to expose people to your products. But the other thing is this halo effect, right? This idea that if the influencers I follow are really interested in this, I'm going to be interested in this, right? I want people who are really, people who I admire or I enjoy their content, I want the same things that they already have. And so I think that like likes, comments, and all of that is good. And people also like things that are popular.
Yeah.
Okay. So exploring your options is key here. So Lauren, which networks does Amaretti tend to focus on in terms of social commerce?
So right now we are mainly Facebook, Instagram. We recently, since we got back from lockdown in March and all of that, we haven't been doing as much YouTube, but we do utilize our YouTube channel quite a bit just to kind of show how to use our products ourselves. This is also a great platform for influencers because we all know if you're looking for a recipe, where do you go? You go to YouTube or Google or something like that, and it's really easy just to watch it, see how it's made, and follow that recipe. So, but I mean, right now it's mainly Facebook and Instagram.
Okay, so let's talk about Facebook first, because I think Facebook is sometimes a little overlooked on the influencer side, but it should not ever be overlooked on the commerce side because they have 2.6 billion monthly active users. I mean, so a third of the planet is on Facebook, right? In some way or another. And they really do have some really great targeting. So they have great targeting. They also have algorithms that make doing influencer marketing a little more complicated. But a couple of the things from a social commerce perspective that we really think are important are Facebook shops. Having your brand set up a Facebook shop is really important. Also, if you took Messenger and you basically divorced it from Facebook entirely, it would be one of the largest social media networks in the world. It's one of the largest communication networks in the world. And as you were talking about before, having people around Facebook Messenger understanding what the clients are saying is really important, right? Uh, do you have any funny messenger stories? Like, if not,
Oh
it's
my
okay.
god, I don't even know where to start. We get some off the wall messages that we have people. I don't know if they're spam or if somebody like does it on accident, like sending pictures, like selfies. And I'm like, why? What are you doing in our inbox? But thank you. Just saying what is it?
Right.
But, well,
And
it's a
then and so this is also why we see a lot of brands sort of moving to having some bots sort of manage the first round of
yeah,
communication, and then forwarding things to the people on the brand team to help out as time goes by. But yeah, Messenger can be interesting, but there's so
oh
much
yeah.
volume there, and it's so important that we manage it correctly, right?
It really is. I mean, we get tons and tons of messages every day. And I think just us being in there constantly and helping explain things to our customers really helps to actually convert them because we get people asking questions, oh, well, why is your product so expensive compared to, this brand? And I think being able to explain to them the benefits and like the quality of our product definitely helps to drive them to purchase. And that's a huge question we get a lot. And it's great to have that to be able to help them out.
And the other thing that's great is if they're on Messenger and they're in your Facebook shop, they're right by that Facebook buy button, which
Yep.
sends them right to the product. And we have a little sort of small customer journey here, but here's a watch, you can click buy, here's a dress, you can buy on Facebook, all of these different things that you can do, shop now. And what this allows you to do is have that commerce be available to you in the within the social media network, which is really important.
Mm-hmm.
You also mentioned Instagram, so I kind of
Yeah.
want to talk about Instagram and some of what you're able to do there. We've sort of touched on it a little bit, but we have an example right here where you can see people have been tagging the products and you can view the products. And I know you were talking about that before a little bit. Do you want to go into a little more detail on that, Lauren?
And for us as Ready, it's great to be able to tag our product so people, again, can find it easily. Like I said, we have thousands and thousands of products, so it's very, very beneficial for somebody just to see it, say, I like that, or look, that looks like a great flavor for my cake. Let me click on it and I'll go buy it real quick.
Mm-hmm.
So that's definitely helpful in that sense.
Yeah, and that we have shoppable story stickers for that as well.
Oh
Um, and just even the basic swipe ups are great
yeah,
on
that's what I was
stories
gonna
as
say.
well.
Swipe up is amazing.
Yeah, swipe ups. And I'm sure most of the people who are listening know this, but you know, the old way of getting a link on Instagram. Everyone who's on Instagram gets one link. So sometimes you
Mm-hmm.
could get people to say, you know what, I'll give you my link so that you can tell people to go buy it, or maybe they send you to a link tree or something like that. But now with swipe up links and all of that, it has really changed the game and made Instagram a much more shoppable e-commerce, social media site, and really helped e-commerce. And we're seeing even more things coming out of Instagram where they're trying to really facilitate commerce even more. And so here are some other examples of that customer journey. So instead of it being, okay, I see this dress and now I see I'm on the website and now we're going to go, I have to go find it. It's what you're talking about. It's that simplicity for the user. They come in, they pick the product, and they're off to the races, and they're ready to actually purchase. And we can actually track that journey and see what content is performing really well for the brands, right? Because the ability to understand what leads from the point of seeing the product for the first time to the point of purchase is so much simpler than it used to be, where the only thing we could hope is they would remember the promo code for the specific piece of content and all that, which as everyone knows, the promo code is there to track, but the customers hopefully remember it so they get the discount that they care about. Okay, and now we're moving on to So to Pinterest. So Pinterest is an interesting one. Um, Lauren, does Amaretti use Pinterest at all, or do you want me to sort of chat on Pinterest a little bit?
We do use Pinterest. We've tried to utilize it in the past for like running ads and whatnot, but right now we basically like all the recipes. It's more of like a great place for us to put our recipes for people to find them and hopefully, be like, oh, that looks interesting. That's a different kind of flavor. I want to try that. So, but it's not one of our biggest platforms.
Yeah, and so Pinterest is extremely interesting because it's really great for commerce, but it's great in a long term way, as opposed to Instagram, where you're going to see a really quick, you're going to see a surge based on a story or something like that. You're going to see those people coming in. Setting up a board like this could be great for a furniture company, could be great for a food and beverage. Because you could show sort of the whole thing and show each product and be able to, once again, get to those products as quickly and easily as possible without that friction point. The other thing about it is it lasts forever. The number of, I mean, maybe not forever, but the way that I end up on Pinterest boards is not by going to Pinterest, it's by Googling something. So Pinterest has really great SEO for people who are looking for something close to that. So if they're looking for a Christmas recipe that involves, what you're talking about, they'll be able to maybe find that on Pinterest. And so that's why we think it's really interesting. You can become a verified merchant. The other thing that's great about Pinterest is it does allow more product feeds. So depending on how your product feed is set up, Pinterest has that capacity to have more products in there. In a certain way, and you can really create a more customized product world and a deeper world rather than just the one-to-one that you can do in tagging pictures and things like that. Now, I always like to talk about what's coming next as well in terms of platforms. So we talked a little bit about YouTube and creating recipes and all of that, and that's great. But the next big players in this space are, we want to focus on two. The first is Snapchat, because Snapchat has some really interesting tools that they let brands use. AR tools so that you can do visualization, put yourself in things, works really well for fashion, works really good for furniture, things like that. And then of course, we'd be remiss if we didn't mention TikTok, because TikTok is just growing so fast. It's such sticky content. There are so many millions and millions of people that are signing up every day that while it doesn't have all of the e-commerce tools that the other platforms have, it has where people are going, especially when you're thinking Gen Z, especially when you're thinking even younger than Gen Z. So that's really interesting. Has Amaretti started some work on TikTok yet, or some experimentation?
So again, before everything got crazy in March, we were putting a lot of efforts into TikTok for our personal channel. We haven't dabbled in it much lately. We do have some people on TikTok that use that use our products pretty regularly, and it's just organic, and they do amazing. I read through the comments, and people are saying, we love Amaretti, we use this in our baking, and I think just it's so great to see that such I don't know, I wouldn't say niche. It's different than what a lot of things you see on TikTok. So to see baking in that industry doing so well there, it gives me hope that this is a platform we can really, really utilize and do some great things on.
It is funny, right? So recipes in general, we sort of think of them from the cooking show model, right? So we're going to take 25 minutes to bake something, and there's a lot of filler time and all of this. That got tightened up a little bit on YouTube recipes. I see people now creating full recipes in 2 minutes or less on TikTok, or 90 seconds or less. And it's terribly satisfying to watch people kind of doing it. And then you have people duetting, which is a really fun aspect of TikTok. One of my favorite things to actually watch. I don't actually like Gordon Ramsay that much, but Gordon Ramsay on TikTok is hilarious because he'll just grab someone who bakes something for 90 seconds and he'll comment on it the whole time. And you're just sort of like, well, that's just funny. So you can see some of these things. There's also like a very meditative thing about watching cooking on TikTok. So I recommend it to everyone. Like it just happens and then it's all together and you're just like, wow, that's amazing. I think I watched the one I watched last night that just kind of came up in my For You page was a instant flan recipe where someone made a flan in like 5 steps. And I was like, wow, okay, now I know how to make flan.
I need to try that.
What's that? Yeah, no, it was a couple of, I think it was, a couple of mixtures, couple of things in a microwave. You put it in a cup and then all of a sudden it was done. And I was like, how is this possible? And it was in Spanish, but I was still following it because I thought it was fascinating. And so that's cool. Yeah, it was really cool. It was really fun. And so how do we all start to think about leveraging those people who are on TikTok? Because there is so much interaction on TikTok. There are so many people who are, creating videos, duetting videos, stitching videos, creating their own content, and it's not fully developed yet, but it will be. And so we all need to be thinking about our strategies there. All right, so we've talked about the benefits of social commerce, and we've talked about different platforms to be thinking about. But how do we go about ensuring our success, right? And we've talked about some of this already, but you need to know your audience, right? And Lauren, you know your audience really well. You know the people who love Amaretti, but you need to know who they are. You need to know what they care about and what channels they are fascinated by, so that you can make sure that you're meeting them where they live. As we talked about, we need to create as seamless a purchase journey as possible. I really love the example that you gave, where people are just able to find the product that's used in that one video. It's so important. We need to leverage authentic content and organic influencers. And do you have influence? You were talking about how you have a whole bunch of people on TikTok who are already doing Amaretti and things like that, or talking about Amaretti. How do you go about considering, formalizing those relationships or reaching out to them, maybe sending them product, things like that?
In the past, what we do is usually I'll either find their email address, send them a direct message and say, hey, I found you here. I love what you're doing. Can we send you samples? Can we find a way to work together? If we're going through the actual affluence, is that where you're leading to?
No, I'm just asking how you've dealt with them. But yeah, you can talk about how you use our platform. It's good.
We have a ton of different ways that, at least I personally do it. If I'm going straight through affluence, I really try to customize who I'm looking for, and if they do, resonate with the brand, and make sure any emails that are being sent out to them are not very. They're more personalized. Mm-hmm. So you're not just I'm one of a million people getting this email.
Right.
So.
Yeah, and that is important, right? We're talking a lot about the customer, we're talking a lot about the brand, but when you're talking about influencers, they're people too. And they want to feel special. They're creative people, and they want to, one of our favorite ways to talk to an influencer is to actually tell them, as you were talking about, how much we enjoy the content they've already created, and that's why we want to reach out to them. People want to have that personal connection, and they want to have that brand connection. And we're going to talk a little bit more about how we go about ensuring that a little bit, but that's great to hear. We recommend the chatbots, even though that's the exact opposite of personalization. But when you're talking about on your social presence, it's sometimes more important to get back to people quickly and then get back to them personally. And sometimes those chatbots on Messenger can be helpful with that. And once again, the more you can get personal, if you can be personal based on browsing history, if you can be personal based on purchasing behavior, that's even better. But you want that personal knowledge of your customer, right? And who are your customers? What have they bought before? What might make them interested? How can you leverage that on social as well? So now we want to talk about how you can grow your work, right? So we've talked about how you set things up correctly, and we've talked a lot about that. How you think about social commerce, how we have to remove those friction points. Every extra step that you're asking the customer to take is a step that lets them say, you know what, I'm going to go. So how do we do that? How do we pick the right platforms that really resonate with our brand? How do we figure out the right messaging, right? The messaging that's right for Amaretti. I really do encourage you to watch Lauren making some cocktails. We were watching a couple of them this morning. It's only 10. Well, now it's just in the morning where I am, so I can't have a mule yet. But wow, it looked delicious. You should go on the Amaretti Instagram page to take a look at that. So once you've done that, you've created the branding and you've created this the story and you've created the pathway for your customers. How do you then accelerate it? How do you make it grow more? And so we have a few things that we think are really important, right? And it's all about that social capital. It's all about getting people who love your brand to talk more about your brand. There are three things that we're really excited about here at Upfluence at this point in terms of leveraging your own networks. So every brand has a network already. You have a network of your customers, you have a network of your subscribers, and a network of people who are already following you for your content. How do you go about finding out who amongst that group could be great ambassadors for you? And we've recently launched a bunch of tools around this that are important. We can actually, we have integrations with quite a few CMSs that are out there. Specifically, we've now integrated with Shopify. So we can help you find influencers from people who have purchased something on your website. That's really big. We can also help you push some data to email services like Klaviyo so that we can help you customize your messaging. Lauren, you were talking about personalization, right? So how do you customize based on the size? You're going to talk to someone who has 10,000 followers in a different way than someone that has 1 million followers. And how do you set that up and do that? But also, we believe heavily in understanding who's already on your website and who is following you on social media, whether that's Instagram or any place else. So what this allows us to do is tap into your network of influencers, right? Who are these people? And we're talking about the people on TikTok, right? How do we find out the other people? How do we find the people who would love to be creating content, would love to be an ambassador, would love to work with you because they already love your brand? Well, we think it's the people who are already coming to your website. You've spent time and energy to get them to come to your website. How are you capturing that information? When you're putting them on a mailing list, can you look through that mailing list to see if they're influencers? And then if they are, how do we move them into your team quickly so that they can put out posts that will drive more people to come to your website and or buy, and then you can find new and better influencers. So how do you continue this and create a snowball effect of people who love your brand and want to work with you? And one of the reasons for this is we've done, this is a perfect example. So Lauren, these are some of your influencers at Amaretti, right?
Yeah.
So can we talk about Maeve over here, Maeve Madden? So she's talking about your protein creams, which are delicious on top of yogurts and porridge and all that kind of stuff. Or we also have Pretty Boy Floyd, who was, actually, this is one of ours. This is one of our clients. But you also have... I was like, wait, hold on. Yeah. Sorry. But then we also have your, look at how delicious that post is by Noreen. I don't want to say Noreen's Nest. I think that's what it is.
one of our most recent collaborations for fall winter baking this year, and it's absolutely incredible. I love, really hand picking people who I think are going to create great dishes and great engagement, and she knocked it out of the park.
So, at the risk of making everybody who's watching hungry, can we talk about what you made there?
It is a cheesecake, and it looks like
Oh
I'm
man,
trying to exactly what she used in here. Our craft puree and a few of our artisans.
uh-huh.
You can find the recipe right on our page. It's really great. But just like having people with that creativity to just purchase our products and make something great. I don't have to give them a ton of direction other than, use your creativity, make something you think your audience is going to like, and it turns out amazing.
Yeah. And
I love being able to give her.
Absolutely. I mean, and what's great is as she's done this, right? So she put her the result front and center, but she did a really nice job of putting the products around the edge, getting the lighting right, and even putting a little pumpkin in there, right? So that you really have a sense of time, you have a sense of season. It's really lovely. And then we also have Posh Little Designs showing a nice little basket that they created as well with macarons.
Gingerbread macarons, and macarons are always a hit. People love them. I don't know, they'll never go out of style. I feel like in the baking industry, anytime we post a picture of macarons, it gets thousands of likes and comments, and that did incredible.
Once again, I do love the product placement here, where it is done in a way that's not, it's not over the top or anything like that. It's very creative, but the brand is front and center. And you do want that. You want, this is a perfect example of what you want from a really good influencer collaboration, where you see the creativity of the influencer shining through with respect for the brand that they're working with. And so it doesn't feel like an ad, but it does feel like people can have the information that they need to make the buying decisions that they care about. Okay. So I know, and this is the last point on this. These creators who love your brand already, so people who are already in your orbit, your customers, your followers, all of that, from our internal numbers and from some studies we've seen, they are 7 times as likely to want to work with you. And if they want to do a paid collaboration, because at the end of the day, when we are paying people, we want to keep the budget down, it is about half the price because they already see the value. And it's on brand for them as an influencer. They already love you. They're already known, in this case, as someone who does wonderful baking or wonderful cocktails. So having Amaretti in is going to help them. And that's the case for pretty much every brand that's out there. You want to find the influencers that love you because that means that their audience will love you. And you're going to have to spend less time and energy trying to convince them to want to work with you. All right. So what does the future hold for social commerce? Lauren, do you have any thoughts on the future of social commerce?
I mean, with the world and the way that it is right now, we have a lot going on, and I think it's just going to continue to grow and grow and grow. People are already staying home and just ordering most of their stuff online. I think it's a big thing to put a lot of your resources into, to find those people who are authentic, that want to share your brand, to, expand your own social commerce as a brand. Because it's not going to go away. And even if once things go back to normal, people are already going to be used to it. It's easier. It's more convenient to be doing your shopping at home. It gives you more time to just do other things in your life. So I think it's definitely something to really put your focus into right now.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree more. This has been an acceleration of a trend. It's not a brand new trend, right? People have been, we've been moving more and more toward e-commerce, all of us in all of our lives. this has been a massive acceleration of that trend. One
Oh yeah.
thing that I think is really important is that everybody needs to remain flexible. So the brands and companies that really know how to say, you know what, I'm ready for what I'm not ready for, or I'm seeing this and it's time to go in this direction. That's the energy you need as we are finishing 2020 and going into 2021. Um, you know, as Lauren said, it's now a fact. Social commerce is a fact, and people are just becoming more and more comfortable with it. I think it's going to
Mhm.
accelerate, not decelerate. And if you want to kind of see where we may be going, um, we had a whole conversation with this about all of the live commerce that you see out of China. So this is a trend where you have influencers that are going on to these live platforms and selling tons of product right in that moment. So we're sort of going from these static posts to some little bits of live and little bits of swipe up, but the next stage is going to be this. We think is going to be people who are online and selling and doing all kinds of things like that. It's really interesting. So that's going to be live video e-commerce, and that's coming. And so everyone should just be preparing themselves for that because it already is here in parts of the world, but it's going to find its way to the rest of the world. So at this point, Lauren and I tried to leave a little bit of time so that we could answer any questions that we have from the audience. And I know some of my colleagues have been answering some of the questions in the chat. So Lauren, I'll read some of these out and we'll answer them, okay?
Okay.
So we have a question which is from Chalong13. Can any brand have a buy now button on TikTok, or are there any requirements? I am not sure about buy now buttons on TikTok. I think you can have them as part of an advertisement for right now, and for that you need to be verified and all of that type of thing. But we can look at that. I can look at getting some information on that. I'm not 100% sure. As I said, TikTok is more in a nascent stage for commerce. Are there any other pros for Snapchat besides the AR tools? Lauren, do you have any thoughts on that? I have a couple, but
I mean, I think it's very brand specific on what you're selling. You know, if it's like cosmetics or skincare, things like that. I think running advertisements in a way to really instill some kind of emotion or things like that is an really, really incredible tool to use because there's so many people on Snapchat. I find myself on Snapchat way, way too much every single day. So, and I think just kind of being able to instill that emotion in between your friends' stories is huge.
Yeah, I mean, I think Lauren is exactly right on this, which is you have to be where people are, and there are a lot of people that are still on Snapchat. It's not quite as talked about, but Snapchat has been doing a lot of really interesting work around a lot of different aspects and very internationally over the last couple of years. So I think they have their group of people, and if you need to be speaking to them, Snapchat can still be a good way to go. Okay, let's see. So we have a question. Do you see Reels as being a viable competitor to TikTok, and do you see it as a revenue channel for influencers? So yes, I do see Reels as a somewhat viable competitor to TikTok. I will say it's an interesting thing. Oftentimes the social media networks borrow from one another. I'll use the word borrow. Instagram borrowed stories pretty clearly from Snapchat, actually, a couple years ago, which worked out really well. Facebook video has been trying to borrow from YouTube for years, and it hasn't really taken off. So the one advantage that I think Instagram does have with Reels is just their user base. Instagram is the most important channel probably right now for influencer marketing. So if they can get people to embrace Reels, that could be a viable alternative to TikTok. But I'm gonna say TikTok has a massive head start on Instagram with short form video. Would you agree, Lauren?
Oh yeah, no, you hit on all the points that I was thinking.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I'll let. So why don't we go to the next one? What methods do you use to effectively track conversions coming from influencers? Coupon codes specific to that content creator, UTM. Lauren, how does Amaretti tend to do it?
Coupon codes. Definitely coupon codes. I create a unique code for every single influencer who wants to use one or utilizes sharing those with their audience. And then, it is tedious work, but it's definitely the easiest and most efficient way to track sales coming from a campaign.
Yeah, and just to take that one step further, we also are big believers in the UTMs, but of course you're just burying the coupon code in the UTM so that if somebody is clicking that link, the coupon code on the way in. One thing that we've recently launched here at Upfluence, for those of you who are on Shopify, we've actually launched the ability to create coupon codes directly as part of our integration with Shopify. So that does make that process a little simpler, hopefully, and creating all of those to send to your influencers, because it is so important. You're absolutely right, Adam. If you're not able to track those conversions, you're going to be in a more complicated situation. Okay. So, Lauren, this is a question for you, and share if you feel comfortable, but what portion of your sales, or maybe we can ask what portion of your sales do you attribute to influencer marketing, but maybe let's ask this in a different way. How are your sales attributed to influencer marketing growing over the last few years?
Over the past few years, we've been doing a combination of a lot more influencer marketing and a lot more advertising on Facebook and Instagram. And I think the combination of both has incredibly, I don't have an exact number for it, but it definitely has increased more of our home users purchasing, because, we're not in your, like I said, we're not in your regular grocery store and stuff. So a lot of our customers have been, your big restaurants and big breweries and ordering huge sizes. Just utilizing influencers and advertisements has really, pushed sales for our smaller pack sizes. We're seeing a lot more of that, and a lot more people who I've seen interacting with our influencers than sharing their own post of using Amaretti products, or thank this influencer for recommending the product. So it's definitely, unfortunately, I don't have the numbers, but just seeing it, I've seen a huge, huge increase in home user sales, or small home bakery, things like that, home baking.
No, that makes perfect sense. And, sometimes it's hard to, divorce what the last point of contact was before someone purchased something. But, that's sort of what we hear from a lot of the people we work with, where when they put the energy into influencer marketing, they definitely see the benefits. So we have a question from Elizabeth Stewart. Do you have any pointers on how to run performance tests with influencers on TikTok? And to give her here's the context she gave, which is she works with startups who often have very small budgets and can't access macro and mega influencers. So do you have any thoughts on that one, Lauren?
I don't, because we haven't really dabbled too much into TikTok. I wish I had an answer to help, but I'm sure you have something.
When we're talking about this, part of what's important here is how you choose to compensate influencers, and what different compensation is available. It's very brand specific, but I used to say that there are really only four ways to compensate influencers, and then you can mix it up together if you want. But one of those was events. Influencer events used to be really good for startups, small businesses, things like that, because you could just invite a bunch of influencers to come to a party. They send out a lot of great content about your product based on that. It was not a bad way to launch a new startup. But so let's talk about the other three ways. One of those is just samples, just sending versions of the products to the people and letting them do stuff. This is a very cost-effective way to work with someone if they like the product, right? It also depends on the cost of the product.
I'm sorry, I was going to say, I was going to piggyback off that. We've done, I mean, before we really got big into like hiring influencers and paying them, we did a lot of, sampling. And that was absolutely, it's amazing how many people are really just interested in trying your product. And, it's hit or miss if they're going to share it, but you have it in their hands. And maybe in the future, they're going to remember, oh, well, your brand makes this and I need this. Let me try it out. So that's really, really important.
So that's one option for working with influencers. Another option that we're seeing a lot of our clients gravitate to is affiliation campaigns. So if you want to test something out, right, give them a product, but then give them an affiliate code. It depends on what you're selling. If you're selling a computer and you're happy to give someone 5%, well, all of a sudden they're going to get like $50 every time they help you sell the computer. They're going to feel pretty good about that. Even with something, if you drive enough sales through your posts, it's going to add up pretty quickly. And we have a lot of partners who help with that affiliation and that we could talk to you about as well. So when you're talking about testing, I like sampling and I like affiliation because your downside is low when you're dealing with a startup. Of course, the third way to pay influencers, and the one they like the most, let's be honest, is to pay them for every post that they do. And that works great once you actually have a good sense that that content is going to be beneficial for you. It also gives you a little more control over what they post because, you're paying them. So they have to actually please you. Whereas when you do a sample, they may post something they might not, as Lauren said. And so what I might do if I were, really thinking about small budgets and things like that is find out what kinds of samples are available, find out what kind of affiliation is available from your clients, and then sort of build it in that way. I think we have time for a couple more questions. And then we'll be wrapping up. So I have a couple more questions here. Here is, I have someone saying, we already use Instagram stories. How can I improve our commerce there? And what data can I see in Upfluence? Okay, well, in terms of improving the commerce there, so do you have recommendations, Lauren, about improving the commerce off of a story?
Definitely, like we talked about previously, swipe up and product tags are
kind of the two big things, yeah. And in terms of data from Upfluence, so we have two sets of data points that we can share with you. The first is sort of about the influencer themselves. We have a lot of data that we know and we can put out there around all of these things. Whether that's their demographic information, who's following them, male versus female, where they live, things like that. In terms of stories, we're a little more limited in what we're allowed to pull from Instagram there, but we actually have a new partnership with Instagram that's going to allow us to gather a little bit more data on that side as well. Okay. Well, I want to, just before we go, I want to just tell everyone, first off, thank you so much to Lauren for being here today and for getting us all hungry at this time of day, which was a lot of fun. And I want to just make an offer to anyone who's on this call. If you want more information on some of what we spoke about today, you can feel free. I think we're going to put a link in the chat as well. to book some time with one of our consultants, and we can talk to you about how our software works, and how you can use it to help you sort of streamline this process of finding the right influencers, contacting them, and even tracking results, as we've been speaking about. But Lauren, thank you so much for being here today, and thank you all for being here, and have a wonderful day.